Now we're going to make one of these out of this. So you're going to need your clear blank, some punny rods, and some reamers, and maybe a pair of tweezers. Always good to have that handy. It's also nice at this stage to have one of these cans done so you can sort of match it up and get it to fit just the way you want. And I like to even have it cool out of the kiln so you don't really have to worry about it or get it in and out of the kiln. But sometimes you can't have that going on, so you got to pull it in and out of the kiln when you do this part. I'm going to start by preheating this, so right when I attach my punny I can like pull it out of the flame a little bit. So here we're going to be pulling down the drain part of the funnel can. And I'm going to put my heat right onto the shoulder of this. I am ever so slightly pulling or putting some tension on it. Also tilting it to let gravity help me out. Now I'm going to give it a little extra heat down there just so it helps it pull down a little more narrow. You can actually pull it out of the flame before it's the length you want. And use that extra little bit of heat to pull it the rest of the way. Now let that cool down and set up nicely. We're going to do a constriction at the top. This is a similar constriction that you would do if you were going to make a 1-y. Basically, it's just going to set up the handle connection to the top to be a lot more clean than it is now. So later on, when it's time to remove, it'll be really easy and come out nice and clean. I'm just basically heating the same spot, letting it just sort of thicken up there. I'm gonna let that just cool down a little bit. Now I'm gonna blow a bubble on this part here. It's already kind of like a bubble, but we're gonna heat it up and get it to be a little more bubble-like. So you don't need a lot of heat, just enough to get it to move. A lot of things in glass work better if you're not in a rush. Don't overheat it. Basically work in gradual increments. Alright, that's pretty good. So now that would be the center of the bubble. We're going to go just off to the center. Just keep heating the same spot on the bubble with a nice consistent turn. And you're giving it a slight push. When you see that ridge start to form, you can pull it out of the flame and give it the rest of the push. That's basically the same move we did for the bottom of the water can. It's kind of like an upside down version of the water can, basically. You're going to get this kind of hot. Just a little glow to it. And you can give it a little pull. Get a little more of that funnel shape out of it. Recyclers work a bit better if there's a little constriction right at the end of the funnel can. So let that set up nicely. Now I'm going to use the blow hose. just going to get a little heat in here, not very much, just enough so it can move. And I'm going to offset it. And I just stop turning and I move this hand just down. And I look at it from the top angle, make sure it's straight as it can be. Straight like this way. Obviously it's not straight the other way. Here's where it's nice to have the can already finished. You can basically see how it's going to fit in to that other can. Switching back and forth because gravity is pulling it, and that way it gives it an even, it pulls it a little bit from each side so it stays even. And there we go, that's the funnel can. Put that in the kiln and we'll use it later. Now we got these 4 parts done. All we need to do is make the mouthpiece. Now for the mouthpiece, I like to use one of these doohickeys. I think it's a compass or something. Basically you just move it back and forth, it stays, measures your distance. One of the things that will make or break a piece in my opinion is your proportions. I think it's a very important thing, the size of everything in relation to everything else. So now we have this the recycler funnel can, and we're going to put a mouthpiece over it. So this right here is going to help me to determine the correct size to do that mouthpiece. And I like that right there. So I'm going to set that here for reference as we make the mouthpiece. So we got a piece of 12 mil. Got a couple handles ready to go, prepped up, and some punny rod, a couple reamers, some tweezers, the usual things. So this is their size right here. And I put that real easy to get to, so I can determine the right size. It's easy to think you're making something the right size, and then when you get the piece out of the kiln or measure it back up to your work, it's like horribly off. And some people would have tendency to say fuck it and just use it anyway, but it'll make your work a lot nicer if you take the time to make stuff the correct proportion to each other. I'm going to start like 2 inches down. I'm going to heat up a little bit to be pulled out for a taper. I think that's nice right there. I'll let it set up nicely. I'll turn down the flame there. And then I'm going to do a Maria right here where it's 12 mil tubing. Once I start to see the ridge form, I'll pull it out of the flame and gradually give it a push as I make sure it's on center the whole time. Once that's nice and set up, I'm going to go back over here where it's 12 mil. I'm going to heat it up. I'm not going to put quite as much heat into it because I don't want to do quite as big of a Maria. Great, now see, I can measure it up to here and tell right where it needs to end. Now I'm just going to get rid of all this tubing right here. tube opened up here. I'll use this paddle. I'm going to heat that inner lip. Make a 3-point stance here. And this is very similar to how I make the joint. But this one you don't really have to worry about whether it fits anything like the joint would. Nice to put a plug in the end so the flame doesn't shoot it down and heat it up too much. Alright, I like that. So now I'm going to do a cold seal. It's basically just like putting on a punny. Slightly trickier. As you stick these, you're going to get just one chance to stick it. So you got to stick it. Usually it's going to be off a little, so then you got to make sure it's on center really before it like completely sets up. So I'm going to heat this one up just on the rim till it's good and hot. Then I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to give it a split second to cool down before I stick it, and then stick it and keep it on center. So there we go, it's hot, cool, stick. So that shows our length, and since I'm going to blow a bubble, we can get a little extra glass in there. If it's too much, we can still remove some after the bubbles being worked. I'm gonna blow hose up to that. I think that's just about perfect right there. Make sure it's all set up. And now I'm gonna pop a hole on the side of this. And there you go. There's the mouthpiece. Now we got all the parts done. Check out videos 3, 4, and 5 to see how they go together.